Welcome back to part 2, and I thought we would dig straight on and look at the 65D. So all I've done with this one is just stripped it and cleaned the body. Now, one of the first things to say about these 65D dizzies is they are in fact an actual excellent dizzy. What with the variable dwell angle electronic module on the side, able to fire a high power coil. These are certainly my preferred distributor, certainly for road use. I've also used them for competition engines as well, with good success. So yeah, very capable unit. However, they do have their shortcomings. Now this one is a good example. So if we look inside, where that shaft sits inside, we take the shaft out, you'll see that this is as it came out. So there was actually no seal. Now normally in the later units there is an oil seal in here. So one of the things that needs to be replaced when you rebuild these is to fit a new oil seal, or as in the case of this one, if there isn't one fitted, actually fit one in there. So the oil seal is a special thin version of a standard seal. So all I do is I don't bother fitting those. I just convert it to take the normal standard seal, so it can be rebuilt easily in the future. So we'll go over to the lathe in a minute and you'll see that happening. In terms of the shaft, well, it's the same as the previous distributors, the 59s especially, in as much as the advanced curves are many and varied, and usually totally not suited to performance applications. So this one, for example, I haven't even checked the number, but it says 42626, and I've just spun this one up in my dizzy machine, and we've got a primary spring which runs all the way to 3000 revs, and then at 6000 revs, engine revs, it's still advancing. So absolutely woeful springing for performance applications. Although having looked at this one, you can see, if we just close in there, you'll see that's 11.5. That's the amount of advance that will deliver. So that's actually 23 at the crankshaft. But when we check that, it's the same as the previous ones as well. They vary a bit, so we'll check that when it comes to rebuilding. But the most important thing to understand here is, if you want your engine to perform, it's just not going to happen if you take any one of these and fit them and hope for the best. That's really the wrong way about it. The most important thing to understand is a lot of these distributors were made from the factory with springs in to try and keep the engine out of pinking and rattling with high compression fuels, etc. So they're actually very, 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 very stiff and very slow advancing. So that is exactly what you don't want for a performance application. So as I said before, this video, or these videos that I'm doing here, are not about how to do a performance dizzy. This is about what I do to my dizzies, so that when people are on the road and they're buying a dizzy, they can see what happens, and also just giving a little bit more information about these components and why I use them, and a bit more information about why they were fitted, etc., originally back in the day. Onto the lathe, and we'll set the body up now so we can actually machine that recess ready for the new oil seal. Okay, so what we've got now is the distributor body set up in the lathe chuck, and now what we're going to do is we're going to go in and deepen this recess where the oil seal fits. we go. Quick zoom in. And you can see we've successfully deepened that bore, and we can now get an oil seal or standard oil seal in there and make that better than it was when it come from the factory. With the unit disassembled, you can see all it consists of is a central shaft. We've got a cam on the top, and we've got a couple of weights. And these weights, interestingly, a lot of people think about talking about changing the weights and springs. Well, in reality, you don't actually change the weights. So these weights are all the same. Even to the point where, if I just bring this one in onto the screen, this is out of the 59Ds that I'm also doing. And as you can see, if I put that 59D weight over that 65D weight, we can see it's actually the same. So a lot of commonality there in parts, and that's typical Lucas. There's no point in making different weights if these ones do the job. So, you know, why reinvent the wheel? One of the other things to look for when you reassemble these mechanisms is that once you get it all back together, it should move perfectly freely. If it's tight, you know, you put some effort into there to turn that and it slips, that's not correct. It should be very loose and easy to turn with no springs on. And that way your mechanism will respond well when that's rotating at speed and the weights fly out, and then advance the system. A lot of people ask me about you know, what springs do I use, where'd you get them from, and all the rest of it. Well, to be truthful, it's been so difficult for me to get the springs that I actually need, that actually what I do is I buy my own, and I make my own springs. So I basically have many options here, as you can see, and I've grown this over the years, but I've got lots of used springs, and I've also got some new ones. So these are the ones that Power Spark sell, and these are my own making. So obviously they're a bit long, but I'll just simply cut them up and make the springs as I need them, and this enables me to do all the advanced curves that I need. So the answer here is, I'm not going to tell you what I do with my advanced curves. You know, I offer training, so I'll do a one-day training course if anybody's interested, if you want to know how to make distributors and recurve them. No one showed me how to do this. I learned how to do it myself. So, you know, I've got my own unique way of doing it, but I soon found that most of the springs that you could get that were original Lucas springs didn't fit, so I had to come up with my own in order to give me the advanced curves and to make the engines perform the way I wanted them to. Okay, so these are the springs that were in that distributor. So that one there is the primary spring, and this one is the secondary spring. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of that big heavy one, and then we're going to replace it with that handmade light spring. Secondly, we're also going to modify this spring to give us the advanced characteristics we need in order to get that distributor into a fast road unit. Okay, so taking a look at this unit, I've now fitted the springs. You can see we've got the new primary spring on there, and we got a modified secondary spring there. So just to talk about the spring assembly, there's a couple of different combinations you can have. You can have a simultaneous spring assembly. You can have a sequential spring assembly and a differential spring assembly, to name but a few. In this case, this is a differential spring assembly because we've got a different primary to a secondary. They're also arranged sequentially, so the secondary spring doesn't come in until a certain point. Anyway, I've spun that up on my distributor machine, and that gives us exactly the advance I need for the application that this one's going to be used for. So in terms of moving forward, if you need a recurved dizzy, or you're interested in having some training, then please get in contact. To finish up the 65D, that's the seal I was talking about, the new shaft seal. and obviously we finish off the job fitting a new O-ring to the shank, and instead of the normal one, I fit a decent Viton one, so it's a bit more resilient and puts up with the heat better. As you can see there, I've now pushed the seal in, which is one of those, and a full depth seal, so that at any point in the future when that gets rebuilt, you only need to take that out and fit a standard seal. Okay, so that's the finished product. So I just do a bottom half dizzy, which I then put in my tuning toolkit when I'm out on the road, and that's a fast road dizzy, and that's all ready for someone when I come out to their car and I see that they haven't got the appropriate advance curve, so I can just reach for this and pop it in. Anyway, we'll leave that one there, and now we'll go back to looking at the 59Ds. Okay, so what I've done here is I've modified the stop on both of these dizzies, and in this case I'm now getting that's just about 12 on there, so I've added about 4 degrees. Okay, so these are the original springs that came out of the 59D distributors. They both have the same type of spring. Now the curve that I'm going to put in this particular distributor is a little bit less than optimum, and that's because it's my curve that I developed for the high compression 998A plus engines, the ones that have the flat top piston. So I find that a curve, my typical fast road curve, is a bit fast for those in some applications, so I developed a slightly slower version. So that's what we're building out of these two new replacement springs from PowerSpark, but they won't be going in as they are. They will be extensively modified to get the advance that I actually need. So what does it look like? Well, there we go, got it curved up, and we've got the primary spring and the secondary spring. As you can see, they've been modified, so they're nothing like the rating that they were when they were first put in, but that's the whole point. These distributors, there isn't a spring for every application, so what you have to do sometimes is to modify what's available to be able to do what you need, or even make up your own springs, as I did with the 65. And there we are, both 59Ds assembled and ready to go into my tuning stock. Well, I hope you found that useful. That's just a little run through on how I do my distributors that I take on the road with me. I also do distributors for other vehicles. I've done a few, you know, for V8s, Vauxhalls, Land Rovers, all sorts of distributors. They're all fairly similar. The most important thing to understand is if you've watched this video, please don't go ahead and start pulling apart and modifying your own distributors. If you get the advance curve wrong, you can easily end up melting a piston and doing damage to your engine. So really only do this if you have some training, of which I've already said in the video that I provide, to be able to understand what's going on. As I said before, this video is not about you being able to watch this and going away do your own video. So it's not an instructional video. It's really an overview of what I do for my own distributors, in case anybody's interested in what they're buying when they get my distributors. So with that said, hopefully you found this you know, interesting and informative, and if you've got any distributor issues or got any questions, then please leave them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. Failing that, if you're interested in needing modified dizzies, then contact me via Facebook Messenger. Anyway, as ever, like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Thank you very much.